Legislature back in session. Senator Salas Matanani, you are recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to place Bill 9238 COR, an act to add a new subsection 1401 to Chapter 10, Title 1, Guam Code, annotated relative to designating the month of November as Veterans Service Recognition Month in Guam and establishing programs and activities to honor and support veterans throughout the month, as amended by the Committee on Health and Veterans Affairs to the voting file. The bill is co-sponsored by all 15 members of this body. The bill went through a public hearing in which our veterans community came out in full support of the legislation. So in the interest of efficiency, and quite frankly, we don't need to pontificate on the bill, we just need to act on it. So again, I move to place Bill 92 immediately into the voting file.
On the motion, there is an objection.
Objection. I'd like the opportunity to speak on the bill, and also I've proffered some amendment. I'd like to proffer some amendments.
There is an objection. They want to be able to speak on the bill.
That's fine.
Okay. So do you want to just go ahead and have them speak?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So, on the bill, gentle lady from Georgia, you recognized? Let's take a minute recess. Legislation back in sessions. Senator Talai, you recognize? Just notice that you have a chance to go. I'll give you a chance. Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and speak, or do you want her to? Okay. And then as your third one comes in, then we'll recognize it. So can you go ahead and go and start? Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
As the author presumed, yes, I stand in support of this bill, that there would be a month to recognize veterans service. And the bill lists several things that the government's going to do to recognize veteran service, beginning with a proclamation, and then different things. Some of the things that were pointed out at the hearing are like to preserve and share the stories of veteran service members. There's whole campaigns here for education and community engagement, cultural preservation, different things. So the bill's very comprehensive, and it's good that way. I wanted to make an amendment to page 6. There's a list of things that says that Veterans Month is established to honor the profound legacy of military service that defines our island community, and this month-long observance shall serve to, and there's a list of 9 things. My proposal is to add a 10th, and that's to expand the Guam Veterans Registry. I just want to keep reminding them who are doing all these activities that they're creating an excellent opportunity to invite veterans and to make sure that those veterans who do appear are included on the list, again, to help other veterans. That would be my amendment. I'll keep it short.
Thank you. On the amendment, Vice Speaker, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand in full support of this amendment. I think it's important that we continue to work on increasing our numbers of veterans that are here on our island. You know, so many things have been tried in the past of doing what we can to have this registry populated. And I think any other way that we can continue to look for avenues to populate the registry, I'm all for it. So, you know, as long as we work hard to bring these numbers up, more benefits perhaps will be able to come to our veterans here on our island. And this is what we got to continue to do. And I thank the sponsor of this amendment for actually placing this so that we can continue to work on this registry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, sir. On the amendment, gentleman from Georgia, you recognize, sir.
Mr. Speaker, for the chance to rise in support of the amendment. I think in anything and hopefully everything we do related to veterans issues, continuing to try and expand the Guam Veterans Registry should be at the center of any effort to address veterans issues, because that's where the federal government is shortchanging the veterans of Guam. Because we know all too well that we have the highest per capita enlistment rate. We know that we have a lot of veterans. But when Uncle Sam looks at the number of registered veterans, he says, oh, it's not enough, so we can't get the kind of services that we need here for our veterans, because officially, we don't meet the threshold with the Federal Veterans Affairs. So we have to continue to expand, register, sign up veterans, because if you talk to the veterans out there, they're the ones who are saying there are a lot of veterans who simply haven't registered, who haven't signed up. I got 2 calls last week at the office from veterans who are asking us to help them navigate the process of signing up with the VA to be able to avail of these benefits. So, you know, Mr. Speaker, if we continue to expand the Veterans Registry, then I believe that the day will come when we can tell Uncle Sam that we do have enough veterans here, that we have paid the price, that our people have served and deserve this recognition, because that's what it's really about. It's about the federal government recognizing the veterans that we have here, the sacrifices they have made, and then giving them the care that they deserve, the care that's long overdue. And so I commend the author for this amendment, and I'm also grateful for the opportunity to speak in support of it, because I don't think as a body we should ever trade efficiency for effort. And so I commend the author and ask my colleagues to support this amendment and any others that really seek to improve this very meaningful measure that I'm very sure will pass unanimously. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. On the amendment, anybody else wishing to speak on the amendment? No other person? Senator Talai, you want to close on the amendment? No need to close. Are there any objections to the amendment? No objections to the amendment, so ordered. Senator Talai, you still have the floor.
Situs Masi, colleagues, the next amendment is on page 9, lines 4 to 7. It's the annual report that this bill requires now. They're going to report on their activities for that month. I'm just making an amendment to revert the may to shall, that they shall report, that there's no option, they must report to the Speaker in order to gauge the efficacy of these programs or their efforts, and if there's any other way to improve.
On the amendment, so just to change the word may to shall. On the amendment. No objections. Any objections to the amendment? You want to?
Oh, no, I'll wait for closing.
Any objections? No objections, so ordered.
So just Masi again, colleagues. My third amendment is on page 8, line 5. So The bill lists different agencies that are going to do different things, the Department of Internal Affairs, the Adjutant General, the National Guard, the DOE. But on this line, it requires the government of Guam instrumentality so established to service the veteran community on Guam shall do these three things. So part of the amendment is to change that government of Guam instrumentality to the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. I do believe by statute that is the government of Guam instrumentality so established to service the veteran community on Guam. And that they are, in any event, that it is GOVA who should do these three things: coordinate month-long activities, coordinate with military and veterans organizations, and monitor program effectiveness. And then the second part of that amendment is in collaborating with military and veteran organizations to collaborate specifically with the Guam Veterans Commission and military and veterans organizations. That's on subsection B. And I just want to put them in there in writing to give them the respect that we have delegated them, or we've listed them in our statutes as the commission that should be consulted in regards to Veterans Affairs, and specifically GOVA should consult with the commission. So I just want to put it in as a gentle reminder that these are the entities. Part B.
On the amendment, any discussion on the amendment? No discussion? I'm assuming, Senator, you waive, okay. On the amendment, any objection to the amendment? No objection, so ordered.
Mrs. Mossy, that's it for my amendments. I just want to finally say on the bill that the bill actually creates a duty for the government to really assist in the celebration of Veterans Service Recognition Month, whereas testimony clarified that in the past it's been often the veterans organizations that have funded all of these recognition programs, their memorials over these years. So the part of the bill that says that it's going to be funded by the government of Guam and supported by the agencies of the government of Guam, I very much support. So again, Sijus Masi, and happy to honor and support veterans throughout the month of November.
Thank you. On the bill as amended, General Lady from Tamuning, you recognized.
Sijus Masi, Mr. Speaker. I stand, of course, in full support of this and thank the author of this legislation to include me as a co-sponsor. In fact, she included everyone, but thank you anyways. I appreciate it. Just a short comment. You know, honoring our veterans goes beyond a single day of recognition. It requires continued commitment and gratitude. Bill 92-38, proposing November as Veterans Service Month in Guam, is a meaningful step toward recognizing the services and sacrifices of those who wore the uniform. With key dates like Veterans Day already observed in November, the With the key dates of Veterans Day already observed in November, create space for expanded community engagement, education, and outreach programs throughout the month. This legislation sends a powerful message that Guam stands behind its veterans, not only in remembrance, but in active appreciation. Supporting Bill 92-38 honors their legacy and builds a stronger, more connected island community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on this measure, and ask everyone, of course, their support as well, and to remember those veterans, not just, like I said, in 1 month, but let's remember them every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On the bill as amended, any other speakers wishing to speak on the bill? General Lady from Barrigada, ma'am, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I rise today in strong support of Bill number 45-38. Oh, hold on.
Wrong notes.
You done?
May I be excused for a moment? So, apologies. This bill is more than symbolic, Mr. Speaker. It represents our collective acknowledgement that honoring our veterans cannot and should not be confined in just a single day. Mr. Speaker, this bill sends a clear message that Guam does not take its veterans for granted. Veterans have given us their service, their sacrifice, and in many cases, their lives. The least we can give in return is recognition, structure, and a month that belongs solely to them. I'd like to recognize and commend the author of the bill, and I'd like to thank her for including me as one of the co-sponsors. Let us pass this bill and ensure that every November, Guam remembers, celebrates, and uplifts the veterans who helped shape our island and defend our freedom. Sidus Masi, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yeah. On the bill as amended, gentleman from Georgia, you recognize?
Sidus Masi, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to rise and speak in support of this very significant measure. And I wanted to speak just for a couple moments about my favorite veteran. No offense to all of the fine veterans who have served our island and our nation, but my late grandfather, Jose Santos Tenorio, is my favorite veteran. He was just 18 years old during the last few months of the Japanese occupation when he volunteered to serve in the Guam Insular Guard, which is sometimes also called the Guam Combat Patrol. And the Insular Guard and the Combat Patrol was comprised of young Chamorro men whose responsibility, and it was a responsibility they wanted, was to go around the island and to hunt down, capture, or kill Japanese stragglers of the Imperial Army. And my late grandfather, of course, wasn't the only one who served. And there was a promise made. There was a promise made that because individuals like my grandfather served essentially under the United States flag as part of the Insular Guard, as part of the Combat Patrol, there was a promise made that they were going to become honorary Marines, honorary United States Marines. And why this promise was important was because many of these Chamorro men, some who gave their lives, all who gave their best effort, weren't recognized, went without care, couldn't afford medical care that they should have got a long time ago. And so my grandfather, through the assistance of our protocol officer here, Mr. Fred Goffigan, was able to complete the paperwork and become an honorary Marine. But unfortunately, by then, it was too late, as he had a heart attack, stroke. I remember the first time he was able to avail of care at Naval Hospital. It was a very big deal in our family because prior to that, everyone had gone to GMH. And even back then, people talked about GMH. But in a cruel twist of fate, my grandfather was operated on at the Naval Hospital. And days later, there were complications, and we came to find out that the doctors had accidentally sewn scissors up inside of my grandfather. And so he had to go back and get those scissors removed and never really recovered. And so when we talk about honoring the veterans, I stood up and I told my story, but every single family on this island has a story about a veteran. And so I completely support this bill. And in the public hearing, it was a kind of a continuing theme, this idea that we don't just offer words to those who have served. We don't just say, thank you for your service. And Colonel Mofness was correct in saying that these words often ring hollow, because what these veterans have experienced is when they come back from these conflicts, they're not thanked for their service. When they look at the level of care that the federal government, our own government, is supposed to provide, they're not thanked for their service. When they're offered the Hessler building, and it's going on now 2-3 years of runaround, they're not thanked for their service. And so I commend the author of this bill for introducing it, because we're going from a day to a month-long celebration. And one of the things I really appreciated about this bill as introduced was that it basically said that we shall recognize the veterans, that we shall coordinate month-long activities, that the Department of Chamorro Affairs shall integrate cultural elements into observances, that the Guam Department of Education shall develop curriculum materials, coordinate school-based activities, and facilitate, this is very important, veteran-student interactions. And so this bill, as introduced, had this language of shall, and it's kind of one of the first lessons that you learn as, well, I learned anyway as a senator, was the difference between shall and may. Shall means you have to. May means, angit malago na. And so I noticed that in the version that we're discussing now, pretty much all of the shalls have been struck through and replaced with mays. And my only worry is that we go from making this an absolute responsibility of the government of Guam instrumentalities, and there are many that I believe should be involved, shall be involved in this recognition, this month-long celebration. And so I know that I don't think anybody in our government is going to not want to celebrate the veterans, but just having that word, that shall in there, means that they have to. And so, and I know as legislators, sometimes we put that may in there to kind of lighten the responsibility, lighten the burden. And I know the author of the bill, and I don't think that that's what the intent was. And I'm very sure that the intent is that we actually go through with all of these different elements. And it's a very comprehensive bill that lays out a lot of different activities that I absolutely support. And I just hope that all of these entities who are going to be responsible are responsible for putting on these celebrations to recognize our veterans, whether it's at the schools, whether it's at the museum, whether it's up at the National Guard. And I implore them to make sure that they do these things, even if the language allows them the opportunity, according to different people and how they interpret it, to not do these activities. So I wanted to just speak on the bill and rise in strong support of it, Mr. Speaker, and I encourage my colleagues to pass this bill and send these 3 bills that support the veterans over to Adelup for the governor's signatures.
Thank you very much. On the bill, as amended, Senator from Talavovo, sir, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to register my strong support for Bill 92-38 as amended. With approximately 13,000 veterans residing in Guam as of 2022, Bill 92 speaks to the broader responsibility we all share as Guamanians to recognize the service and sacrifice of our nation's heroes, the women and men of our armed services. Recognizing that Bill 92 pays special tribute to our veterans, I believe the measure goes beyond honoring our nation's heroes on paper and public celebrations. If enacted, Bill 92 will serve as a reminder to our entire community that we must step forward with every opportunity before us to also help our veterans navigate and access the critical services they might need, including housing, employment, education, and healthcare programs. Mr. Speaker, equally important is our obligation to help the unknown number of veterans living on Guam whom the local and federal governments have yet to identify, the women and men who have yet to file a VA claim or are still waiting for a claims decision from the Department of Veterans Affairs. Bill 92 helps us focus our time, energy, and resources to connecting our veterans to the very programs and services that they need and they deserve. It is the least that we can do to recognize the contributions of veterans to our nation and our island that will last for all time. Mr. Speaker, I am a proud son of Eloy Perez Gumatautau, a patriot who served our country with honor in the United States Marine Corps. A sergeant, my dad, earned an air medal while serving in the Vietnam War, Marine Medium Helicopter Squadron 364, or HMM 364. His service and sacrifice, truly understood only by a small group of Americans across our nation and our island, must never be forgotten. As such, it is through measures like Bill 92 that will help ensure the service and sacrifice of our veterans are never erased from our collective public memory. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to register these brief remarks in full support of Bill 92. And I commend the author, Senator Sabrina Salas Matanani, a daughter of a U.S. Air Force veteran, for honoring her late father, my late father, and all our veterans, to include those in this room through this important piece of legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're very welcome. On the bill as amended, the gentleman from Tumuning, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too stand in full support of the bill, and I thank the author, of course, Senator Sabrina Salas Matanani, for its introduction. You know, we often also thank all the veterans that we meet and see, and thank them for their service. So on behalf of the 38th Guam Legislature, Mr. Speaker, we want to thank you for your service. We want to thank Vice Speaker Ada for his service. Thank Senator Vince Borja for his service. Thank Senator Joe San Augustine for his service as well. Thank you, gentlemen, again for your service for our country and our island. Mr. Speaker, this bill is more than a symbolic statement. It's our commitment to all our men and women who answered the call to serve. Guam, of course, has long held the highest enlistment rate per capita in our nation. Military service is embedded in our island's identity, and our veterans are not just names in history books. They are our family, our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues. Through my office, with the guidance of two outstanding individuals, of course, my Chief of Staff, Marvin Crisostomo, a proud U.S. Army veteran, and Mr. Benny Roslin, both the Army and Marine veteran. From navigating through the VA system and assessing mental health needs, to finding housing and employment, These are not abstract issues. These are everyday realities for far too many of our island heroes. By designating, of course, Veterans Service Recognition Month, we, of course, create not just a time to remember, but a platform for action, a chance to educate, to advocate, and to mobilize resources for those who have served. Let this designation be a lasting reminder that Guam will always honor its veterans, not just on Veterans Day, but every single day of the month and beyond. Again, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure this was passed obviously, but again, I just want to say that I stand in full support, and I encourage my colleagues to stand in full support of this measure as well. And again, Mr. Speaker, Vice Speaker, Senator Ada, and Senators Borja and San Augustine, thank you very much for your service to our country and our island. This is Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. On the bill as amended, any other senator wishing to speak? No other senator? Senator Matsuhari, would you like to close, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my colleagues for speaking on the bill. Thank you, Senator Terlahi, for the amendments to the legislation. One thing I did want to just kind of clarify and just speak a little bit about what one of the previous speakers mentioned regarding the shall, the may, and you know, that was something that was discussed during the actual public hearing on the bill, whether to use shall or may. And so during the markup hearing, we decided to go with may. But just so that everyone that's watching and everybody knows that, you know, the veterans community, it means so much to me. As Senator Gumatauta mentioned, my father is a veteran. And so with all 15 senators that co-sponsored this legislation, I truly do hope that it translates into an actual vote. So, thank you.
So therefore, you'd like to move the bill to, as amended, to the third reading?
And I would like to move the bill to the third reading file. Thank you.
You're very welcome. On the motion to move the bill as amended to the third reading, any objections? No objections? So ordered. Senator Titagui, you are recognized, ma'am.
Si Jus Masi and Viva Veterans. Mr. Speaker, I would like to place Bill 153-38 COR, introduced by myself, which is an act to amend 4102 and 4104 of Chapter 4, Title 3, Guam Code Annotated, relative to modernizing the precinct realignment and the composition of the precinct boards, to the third reading final, and I would like to speak on the bill.
You can proceed, ma'am.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Bill number 153-38, a measure developed in close collaboration with the Guam Election Commission as part of the broader election reform package I've been working on to modernize our voting system and strengthen our voter confidence. As voter registration grows and population shifts continue across our villages, the Guam Election Commission must be given the flexibility to adapt. This bill increases the threshold of voter per polling places from 800 to 1,200, helping reduce administrative overhead, improving staffing efficiency, and ensure that election resources are used more effectively without compromising voter access. Bill 153 also changes how precinct boards are set up, allowing the Guam Election Commission to decide staffing needs based on each precinct size and complexity. These updates let election officials make smart decisions using data and actual needs, something we've needed for a long time. These aren't arbitrary changes. They are key to ensuring that every election is fair, accessible, and efficiently run. I welcome any questions my colleagues may have and encourage an open dialogue to address concerns or share suggestions that can further strengthen the intent of this bill. However, I do have one amendment that I would like to proffer, and I believe it's already sent to the clerk's office, but I don't see a hard copy in front of me right now, and it is basically just changing the number, which is located on page 2, lines 18 and 19. And it's as simple as just keeping with the intent of an odd number of a precinct board members. Right now, earlier we had placed 8, but the Guam Election Commission has never used a even number whenever placing individuals at these precincts. So precinct board members, there's usually 1 that is the lead, and then 6, making it odd number as the members in these precincts. Now, if you go to a smaller precincts, it could be 1 and 3 individuals, or I'm sorry, 2 individuals. Like Hagatnya is a very small precinct in this situation, or other jurisdictions or precincts that are smaller. So that's basically what it is just to, even though the bill, says not to exceed 8, I think that we can just stay with the intent of maintaining an odd number at all times, even on the bill itself. But just to let everyone know, the Guam Election Commission never does an even number. So
what specifically is the amendment?
So the amendment just changes, okay, just changes 8 to 7. Let me pull it up.
So that's on
Yeah.
page 2, line 18.
Yeah, page 2, line 18, it changes 8 to 7. And then on line 19, it changes 7 to 6.
Okay, let's do it one at a time.
Okay, one more
Okay.
time.
On the First Amendment,
The First Amendment, yes.
page 2, line 18,
Right,
changes the number 8 to 7.
yes.
Any objections? No objections, so ordered. Okay, the Second Amendment is on line 19,
Changes,
changes 7 to 6.
yes.
Okay. On the amendment, any objections? No-
And if I may, just to clarify those two, why would you do that? Basically, so the one precinct is one individual, and then an odd, giving the even number of 6, even though it's 6, it's still an odd group of people.
Understood.
Okay.
Any objections? No objections, so ordered.
And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay. On the bill as amended. Gentleman from Talapovo, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to register my support of Bill 153, which, if approved, amends the election statutes by increasing the number of voters allowed per polling place and allowing more members to serve at each precinct designated for any election. Voting is the most important act of a democratic society. As we are celebrating later this week the 75th anniversary of the signing of our Organic Act, this particular measure tells us just how far we have come as a democratic society. If elections are to fulfill their expected role in Guam, the polling places voters must use must facilitate the act of voting. According to the Guam Election Commission during the public hearing on Bill 153, the bill's provisions will help provide the Commission with administrative flexibility, including a reduction in unnecessary overhead, staffing requirements, and materials needed at underutilized precincts. Mr. Speaker, for historical reference, out of the 62,091 registered voters, the voter turnout during the 2024 general election was 48.3%. For comparison, the 2022 general election saw a historically low 56% voter turnout, and this is during a gubernatorial election. And during the 2020 general election, that voter turnout was at 53%. According to the GEC, the number of election precincts have fluctuated since 1976 based on population shifts, with the 2004 election requiring only 53 election precincts, and the 1986 election requiring the most number of election precincts, which was 75. Mr. Speaker, the GEC's 2024 Election Comparative Analysis Report revealed that 5 of the 19 districts, or election districts, had a less than 50% voter turnout rate during the 2024 general election. If approved, Bill 153 will help ensure that the GEC, as they represented during the bill's public hearing, will have greater flexibility in managing precinct size while maintaining an orderly voting process. Mr. Speaker, I stand in support of Bill 153, and I commend the GEC for working closely with its Oversight Committee to develop the necessary amendments to our election statute, particularly with sufficient time before next year's primary and general elections. For our voters or critics of this measure worried about the long lines that this bill will create, I offer this. What is wrong with long lines? Aren't lines a sign that the public is excited by an election or the candidates? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak in support of Bill 153. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. On the bill as amended, any other senators wishing to speak on the bill as amended? Any other senators? Gentlelady from Zonia, you're recognized.
Thank you. In the findings of the committee, it says that the bill will increase the number of voters per polling place, that we're going to make our polling places bigger. But then it says that we will reduce the number of precincts from 72 to 59. That means fewer. So bigger precincts, but fewer precincts. And this is to save $32,000 per election. That's really all. But I wanted to know, does this bill allow them to close a precinct, for example, Yamatic, a village, where the precinct is a smaller number, for example? I hope not. But does it give them that flexibility? Does it give them technically that authority?
Would the author of the bill willing to yield to that question?
It's about right sizing, I believe, that the Guam Election Commission is trying to do. And if it means that, one precinct can be eliminated and that flow into another precinct within that same area, because as you know, you have Harriet Truman right next to Hoggett. You have Petey next to Assen. Those smaller precincts, but within the same kind of, I wouldn't say jurisdiction or the same village, but at least right next to each other. So this is about, yes, right-sizing these areas of precincts. It would give them the opportunity, but of course it'd be something that would have to be voted on by the Guam Election Commission board.
Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Masi. Well, yeah, it does, and it raises a concern. So I have no objection to closing. For example, in Joltnyan, you have several precincts within the MU Lujan school. You would have the A to M or whatever, different letters, right? Split up into 3 precincts. So I have no objection to consolidating those, perhaps, but I very much object to changing any precincts or removing any precincts from a village or rearranging them so that they have to share with another village. I just don't think that that's going to go very well with these villages. I think they deserve to have a polling site right where it is very convenient for them, right in their villages where they have traditionally voted for years and years. So I guess I would just ask if unclosing the author could clarify that. Otherwise, that's my concern. Tijus Masi.
Can you clarify that? The author, would you like to yield to the question?
So, yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you. And thank you for that question. You know, I think, like I said, you know, we're in dire times right now when it comes to financing. And as we know that recently there was brought up that they will be cut, the Guam Election Commission will be cut on some of their budget, and they have to find ways to adjust to that. But I don't think they would jeopardize the integrity of voting or jeopardize the inability for people to conveniently vote. I mean, we do that in the early voting, offering that a scenario for early voting. But as far as, like I said earlier, if they're worried about closing a precinct and taking those individuals and placing them somewhere else, like for instance, Hagatya. It's a very small precinct. And Agana Heights is not too far away. Would it be an issue for the community to just drive up to Agana Heights to vote instead of coming to Hagatya? I don't think so. But then again, like I said earlier, this is something that has to be agreed upon a bipartisan group of individuals, the commission, to decide on that, ensuring that the integrity is not lost. And I think the Guam Election Commission will always keep that in mind. So unless the good senator who stood up from Jonya would like to proffer some kind of amendment, I don't think that would it would defeat the purpose of the whole right-sizing our Guam election and to adjust to today's, voting, today's new innovative ways with technology and bringing things, easier and closer to our community, things like that. I just don't. I think it would defeat it, but I hope that answers. I think I gave a little more than what was asked, but thank you, Mr. Speaker. Standing by if there's anything else I can be of help.
Thank you very much, Senator. Senator Talai. Okay. On the bill as amended. Any other person wishing to speak on the bill as amended? No other persons? Senator Tadigui, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, thank you for those questions. And colleagues, this bill is about more than numbers and staffing formulas. It's about trust in our democratic process. Bill 153-38 empowers the Guam Election Commission to manage elections more efficiently with tools that reflect the realities of today, not statutes written for yesterday. It is a practical, necessary step forward in our island's election and modernizing its efforts. Colleagues, I respectfully ask for your support. Let's move Guam's election to the future together. Mr. Speaker, I move to place Bill 153-38 into the voting file.
Okay. On the motion to move Bill 153-38 as amended to the third reading file, are there any objections? No objections, so ordered.
On Bill 97-38 LS, Speaker Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move to place Bill 97-38 LS as amended by the Committee on Economic Investment, Military Buildup, Regional Relations, Technology, Regulatory Affairs, Justice, Elections, and Retirement a bill introduced by myself and Senator Talataitigui, which is an act to repeal and reenact Chapter 11 of Title 12 Guam Code Annotated and to amend subsection 45.30b and subsection 45.40 of Chapter 45 Title 8 Guam Code Annotated relative to the reorganization of the Public Defender Service Corporation to provide effective legal aid and services to persons who are entitled to counsel under the Organic Act of Guam, the laws of Guam, and the United States Constitution, and to cite this act as the Public Defender Service Corporation Act of 2025 into the third reading, and I would like to be able to speak on it, speak to it.
You can continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in firm support of Bill number 97-38, COR, otherwise known as the Public Defender Service Corporation Act of 2025. This legislation represents more than a statutory overhaul. It is a values-driven effort to restore, reinforce, and future-proof our system of legal representation for the people of Guam. For decades, the Public Defender Service Corporation has served as a pillar of justice, standing with those who would otherwise face the legal system without a shield, without a voice, and without a chance. But as our community has changed, so too must the institutions that serve it. Our laws must reflect the complexity of our times. They must evolve to meet the needs of today's working families, our youth, our manumko, and every individual who relies on the promise of equal protection under the law. This bill repeals and reenacts Chapter 11 of Title 12 and amends subsection 45.30b and 45.40 of Chapter 45 in Title 8. Through these reforms, we're not simply restructuring an agency, we're reorganizing hope, fairness, and dignity. The revised framework enhances transparency, streamlines operations, and ensures that services are delivered efficiently and ethically. Let's be clear. Access to competent legal counsel is not a luxury. It is a constitutional guarantee. And where the system falters, it is our duty to intervene, to reinforce the foundations of justice, and to ensure no one is denied their rights due to poverty, ignorance, or circumstance. This legislation speaks to fiscal responsibility. With input from the Bureau of Budget and Management Research, the bill addresses staffing, infrastructure, and strategic deployment of resources, ensuring that we deliver quality representation without compromising Guam's financial stability. Today, entrusted with the legislative power to shape our justice system, we have the opportunity and the obligation to affirm that Guam believes in fairness, that we will meet constitutional mandates not just on paper but in practice, that the most vulnerable amongst us will not be left to fend for themselves. So I urge each of my colleagues to support Bill 97-38 COR. Let us pass a measure that reflects our highest ideals. Let us move forward with confidence that our legal institutions are not only reformed but revitalized, ready to serve every citizen of our island with excellence and with heart. So with that, Mr. Speaker, stand ready to engage in the discussions, deliberations on the bill, and I ask for my colleagues' support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Taitiguy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, we're here amongst something very iconic. The 50th anniversary of the Public Defender's Office was celebrated this year. It's a momentous milestone for us, and we have an opportunity now to make some changes for the good in this legislation by creating its independence as a public defender's office. You know, Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong support of amended Bill 97-38, known as the Guam Public Defender Service Corporation Act of 2025. This measure reaffirms our government's commitment to ensuring that every person, regardless of income, has access to competent, independent legal representation as guaranteed under the Organic Act of Guam and the U.S. Constitution. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the time that Speaker Bloss has taken amongst himself, along with some of my committee members who were present in formulating amendments made to this legislation. I'd like to also thank for the feedback provided by the Public Defender Service Corporation, for their feedback, the judiciary, members of the private attorney panel, and the Sixth Amendment, and the Sixth Amendment Council, and everyone that testified on this bill, registering their concerns and providing recommendations. I want to especially thank the committee for listening to all the feedback we received and working to amend Bill 97 to make it an even better bill. I also want to take this time to clear up some misconceptions about the amendments made to the bill by reiterating the facts of what the amended bill does and does not do. Amended Bill 97-38 responds to critical findings of the 2024 Sixth Amendment Center report, which urged Guam to establish a more independent and professional indigent defense system. The bill creates a restricted autonomous public defender service corporation that removes administrative oversight from the judiciary to eliminate any undue influence and foster public confidence in our judicial system. Bill 97-38 still establishes 5 functional divisions under the corporation of public defender, alternate public defender, civil law center, public attorney panel, and administration. It also creates a new 7-member board of trustees with representation from all branches of government and the Guam Bar Association, but will now include a member of the general public appointed by the Speaker and a member with experience in the field of social work, based on the recommendation from the Sixth Amendment Council to consider diversifying the board by including non-legal perspectives in indigent defense governance. It still authorizes the corporation to hire staff, adopt standards, and manage operations to deliver high-quality legal service to those most in need. Mr. Speaker, what Bill 97-38, the amended bill, does not do is rely solely on the Judicial Client Service Fund to support indigent representation. It continues to create a new Public Defender Service Corporation fund to receive and manage revenues, and it allows for a board-based funding, direct legislative appropriation, federal and local grants. This diverse funding strategy does not ensure that the corporation is not vulnerable to fluctuations in fines, fees, and traffic tickets revenues. Mr. Speaker, there was a lot of work put into this, and justly so. We are creating an entity that's separate and apart and provides more of an independence to this entity of the government. I would like to proffer an amendment at this time, Mr. Speaker. Everyone should have it on their desk. And when I say within an entity of the government of Guam, there was a concern earlier about using the word autonomous. So just to clarify it, and I worked with legal on this amendment, as well as some of my colleagues, of course, the author of the legislation. And it basically, this is located on page 11, colleagues, line 15 to 22. It's section 11103. And what it does is it reads, in order to provide effective public legal services to those persons in Guam, there is created a public corporation to be known as a Public Defender's Service Corporation, period. The Public Defender's Service Corporation is established as and this is where we strike out autonomous and just put entity within the government of Guam. And that reads on, subject to the Supreme Court of Guam. And then this is very important, Mr. Speaker. It still reads, after autonomous has been struck out and an entity is stated instead, it says, subject to the Supreme Court of Guam, the Guam Legislature's inherent statutory and organic act authority, the corporation shall have authority to oversee, supervise, administer budget for public legal services in Guam. And that is my amendment, and I ask my colleagues for their support.
On the third degree amendment, and this is to strike out autonomous and put, and it'll just be read as an entity within the government of Guam. Any members who would like to speak on that, on the amendment? Senator Taigui, you want to close on the amendment?
No, I'll waive my closing.
All right. Any objections to the amendment? No objections. Amendment passes. Senator Taigui, you're recognized.
Thank you. With just a little more time that I have left, in closing, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, Amended Bill 97 strengthens protection of the rights of the most vulnerable members of our community, those who cannot afford legal counsel. It strengthens our criminal justice system, enhances government accountability, and aligns Guam with national best practices. I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting Amended Bill 97-38. Let us ensure that justice should never depend on someone's ability to pay. Sijus Masi, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Taigui. On the motion, on the main, on the bill, any other colleague would like to speak? Senator Paris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I appreciate all the efforts that was made to upgrade this part of law, and especially when it has to do with indigent defense. We know, according to a 2024 evaluation by the Sixth Amendment Center, they identified challenges in achieving full independence for Guam's indigent defense system, essential to ensuring effective representation. So I do support this effort. The judiciary has been providing administrative support for operations of the private attorney panel, creating perhaps some may seem as undue influence. And so this bill intends to provide more of an independent approach. And so I do support those efforts. The one amendment that I would like to proffer is identified as AB 97, SFP L25 to 27, 1 to 2, page 14 to 15. It's in section 11105. And so this has to do with the Board of Trustees, appointments, membership, and terms. And so what this amendment proposes is that at least 4 members shall be licensed to practice law in Guam. So the current, in the bill, it states there'll be 7 members in the board. And so this would ensure that the majority of members are local and are licensed here in Guam. So I do ask for my colleagues' support in this.
On the Paris Amendment that strikes out jurisdictions that are subject to the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and adds in the word Guam. Senator Taigui, you're recognized.
Sijus Masi, Mr. Speaker. I stand in full support of this. During the markup meeting, we had struck out a section in 11106 during the markup meeting original language that basically said that struck out lawyers, members from off-island jurisdictions that are subject to the Sixth Amendment. So this amendment just, makes it consistent with the bill. So I stand in full support of this amendment.
Thank you, Senator Taitigui. Any other member wish to speak on the amendment? Senator Talai, you're recognized.
Jesus Masi, I stand in full support of this amendment as well. We're creating an entity that is going to dictate who is indigent, who gets to be covered by indigent legal defense, who gets to be covered under civil law, who gets to be appointed on the criminal law panel. And when I asked at the hearing, why are we going to allow this to anybody outside of Guam? This would be completely unusual for any entity, agency, or department of Guam to be governed by those who don't even live here or have to practice here. And they just said because we have so few lawyers, we might, run into not enough people. But I don't agree with that. And I don't, as a lawyer myself, but as a really, a resident of Guam for many years, if we're going to create an organization to govern the people of Guam, then it should by all means be by the people of Guam. So I absolutely support this amendment.
Thank you, Senator Talai. Any other member wish to speak on the amendment, Perez amendment? Senator Perez, you'd like to close on your amendment? On the Perez amendment, any objections? There being none. On the measure, any other senator would like to speak on the measure? Senator Gumatato, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to register my support for Bill 97, which, if approved, establishes the Public Defender Service Corporation as an entity independent of the judiciary of Guam, responsible for representing the legal needs of indigent clients. Adopted in 1791 as part of the Bill of Rights, the Sixth Amendment protects individuals accused of crimes within the American legal system, the essential components of a fair trial that include the right to be informed of the nature and cause of the criminal charges, the right to a speedy and public trial, the right to confront and compel witnesses, and the right to assistance of counsel. The measure, Bill 97, addresses the latter. 50 years in the making. It is a response to a study conducted by the Sixth Amendment Center that we've heard about already this afternoon, and their report in March of 2024 on their evaluation of trial-level indigent defense representation in adult criminal cases in Guam. As you are well aware, Mr. Speaker, at the core of Bill 97 is a policy that recognizes that Guam should vest the authority to oversee all indigent legal services in an independent right to counsel commission, an invaluable resource to defend the accused in our justice system. By establishing the Public Defender Service Corporation as an entity within the government of Guam, Bill 97 addresses what I believe really is the key issue raised by the Sixth Amendment report, that is, guaranteeing an individual's right to legal counsel consistent with the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution. Our sister branch, the judiciary of Guam, has done its part with this important right that we have as Americans. It is now time that we support this effort moving forward. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that the amended version of Bill 97 also establishes a $150 per hour cap for private attorneys who are retained as independent contractors for indigent clients. This provision, subject to the development of alternative compensation policies by the PDSC in consultation with the Guam Bar Association, provides for a reasonable arrangement that supports the legal counsel requirements of our indigent citizens while ensuring private attorneys are properly compensated. Mr. Speaker, the passage of Bill 97 would acknowledge our responsibility to protect the rights of all Guam citizens, including those who are unable to secure legal counsel due to financial limitations. Therefore, I rise in full support of this measure and extend my appreciation to our Speaker, Speaker Blas and Senator Taitigui, for advocating for these critical amendments to the Public Defender Service Corporation statute, consistent with the recommendations of the Sixth Amendment Center. And again, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice and support for Bill 97, and I encourage my colleagues to get behind this important initiative. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Gumatauto. Any other member wish to speak on the measure? Senator Calvo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in strong support of Bill number 97-38 LS, a much-needed step towards modernizing and professionalizing our indigent defense system on Guam. This legislation reflects the thoughtful collaboration of stakeholders, from our judiciary to national experts to local defenders, all who have made it clear it is time to ensure that every person, regardless of income, has access to a fair and constitutionally sound defense. I commend the committee for refining this bill in a way that maintains constitutional checks and preserves judicial and legislative oversight, while still giving the new PDSC board and tools it needs to build a professional, sustainable, and independent public defense system. These amendments make the bill stronger, clearer, and more accountable. Ultimately, Mr. Speaker, this is about protecting the rights of the most vulnerable in our justice system. It's about upholding our constitutional duty and ensuring that Guam lives up to the values of fairness, justice, and due process. I urge my colleagues to support the passage of Bill number 97-38. And I commend the authors of the bill, and I would like to request to be added as a co-sponsor. Sidus Masi, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Calvo. Any other member wish to speak on the measure? Any other member? Senator Blas, you like to close? No. Stand by. Senator Blas. Senator Chalayi, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm looking at the markup version because there were quite significant changes made in the committee. So on page 15 of the markup version, it talks about a $150 fee, but I'm looking for that page on the regular bill. If anybody could assist me. Oh, here it is. Okay, page 14. So I just wanted to ask the sponsor if she would yield. Why does, it says already that the board is going to establish the fees. It's going to do so by adopting compensation policies in consultation with the Guam Bar. And then there's a sentence that says, any proposed increase to the hourly rates for private attorney panel providers must be approved through a resolution by the Superior Court of Guam. I just wanted to ask the author if there's any reason for that provision to remain in there. We're transferring this whole department, public defender, out of the judiciary, and we're allowing this board to establish the rules of compensation. Is there any technical reason why it needs to be approved or rates for the private attorney panel need to be
Speaker
approved.
Blas, you yield to the question?
Yes, I do, and thank you for the question. It's actually a very good question, and I agree with you. And the language was as proposed by the judiciary, but I see where there's can be some contradictory in this thing, so I don't oppose striking that sentence in the end of that paragraph.
Just Masi, then I would make that motion.
Point of information,
Senator Tideway.
if I may, if it's okay. As we were doing the markup meeting for this legislation, Mr. Speaker, one of the areas that's going to fund the private attorney panel, the PAP, which is under the Public Defender's Office, comes from the Public Service Fund through the judiciary. And this is not, you know, anything other than just notifying them of any increase of attorney's fees. It was just this year, Mr. Speaker, that the attorney's fees went up from 125 to 150. It was increased this year. So because of that, and the Public Service Fund, which also funds 4 other areas, such as the marshals, the, and I'm looking, victims' compensation, as well as the, the language, you know, interpreters. So there's other areas, I think Erica's house is in there too as well. So there are other areas that fund this. So it's just a courtesy to let them know that if there is any increase, that this is going to have to come from that area. So that's the reason why that resolution is put in place, to notify the judicial branch, because they do fund the PAP.
Thank you for the point of information. Senator Talai?
Jesus Masi, the bulk of all of this is going to be funded by the taxpayers of Guam. Absolutely, the bulk of it. A very small portion is going to be funded by the judiciary after appropriation by the people of Guam again, or by fees that they collect over there. But yeah, that's just that just brings me to, you know, what I want to talk about on this bill. So, of course, we all support indigent defense. That for criminal cases, that is the constitutional right. And so, removing that governing board from the judiciary, governing the public defender's office, to another entity governing the public defender's office is great. It's overdue. It should have been done a long time ago. In fact, we had asked the public defender to assist us to do this, but they commissioned a whole study before any recommendations. So I have no objection to that. My caution is that this bill does way more than that. It doesn't just take the public defender and the alternate public defender and say, you're now no longer governed exclusively by the judiciary, you're now governed by this new board that we've created. But this board has been given extreme powers to determine their costs, their expenses, what they're going to pay their lawyers, and it also mandates, doesn't say you may, but it mandates a civil panel, which is not a constitutionally mandated legal services. But in doing that, we are putting on the taxpayers of Guam a pretty much huge commitment to fund not only indigent legal services, but civil services at the discretion of this board. And just as the judiciary wants to be appraised of any increases in costs that they might have to face, I think we as a body have to be very cognizant that the budget that might come along with all of these things that they've included and mandated and been given the authority to dictate, that should all be subject to the appropriation power of the legislature. For example, if we have to cut in all agencies, we're going to have to consider that as well. And I think we know we cannot really cut indigent defense. So we just have to, I would like to just, my preference was just to see that prioritize. Like that is the constitutional mandate. That is what we're doing for sure. And everything else that might be done is secondary and is subject to, funding availability. But I'm hoping that the board will be able to discern that as well, and that they are going to have to decide how to split up their money between their divisions that have been authorized in this bill. And I just hope that they will prioritize indigent defense, because that is really the key reason why this is all being done. And even though we would love to have free legal services for everyone, we can't do that because of costs. And we can't, but this bill does mandate and guarantee free civil legal services, not necessarily constitutionally mandated, but it's going to come at a cost to us. And I suspect that it would be bigger than their current budget. So anyways, that's really my concern. And I'm glad we made the amendment about the lawyers being from Guam. This is going to be governed by lawyers. And, but I do know that what we're facing on Guam is really a shortage of lawyers. So public defender and alternate public defender have been very lucky and very effective in recruiting and retaining their lawyers. They've recruited many from the Attorney General's office over the years and vice versa, but they've been able to do a good job. So this new panel hopefully will be able to really concentrate on that, keeping the lawyers to do criminal defense. It's hard to do that. I think it's the only thing harder than that might be to recruit prosecutors, which we also have an issue with. So, but again, I want to thank the committee. They did a lot of work on this bill, and I thank the author as well. So I will support this bill, but I'm just very, very worried about the costs that are coming along with this and the mandates that are kind of extra, not the constitutionally mandated services that we must fund and we must provide. And when we give them authority to dictate those costs, we just have to proceed in caution. So, Sidus Masi, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any other senator wish to speak on the measure? There being none. Senator Blas, you'd like to close?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank you very much to my colleagues who contributed to the deliberations of the bill. You know, Mr. Speaker, justice isn't free. And what this bill basically provides is basically a statement of the maturity that our judicial system has as we grow as a government. 75 years we're going to be celebrating. And within the last 50 years, our judicial system has progressed leaps and bounds. And this legislation is a testament to that maturity and to that progress that we have. There are protections provided by the Constitution that we as a government have an obligation to fulfill. And as was spoken earlier, this was overseen by very competent and very, I want to say, concerned members of the judicial branch. And it was through their urging, their constant, the discussions that we had that we moved, we progressed towards this era, if you will, of our judicial maturity. I want to thank the oversight chair and the committee that worked not just diligently. I think at one point in time I almost got accused of overtaking her office because of all the work that needed to get done for this. And I appreciate your patience and your help in all of this, Senator. And thank you for being the co-sponsor to it as well. I want to thank the judiciary for their input and for basically working with us and being able to draft this legislation presentation. The Public Defenders Corporation for their input as well. I mean, you're right. I mean, this is an entity that's going to be created and there's going to be a cost to this, but I think that, again, justice isn't free. And we have an obligation for that. And I'm sure that they're ready to take on that responsibility. To the members of the Guam Bar Association who helped out also in being able to address and to express some of their concerns and some of their challenges, as well as, you know, their best practices and their suggestions as to how this corporation and this entity should be set up and what their mandates would be and what they'd be responsible for. To the Sixth Amendment Center, you know, for bringing this to light and making sure that they help us to, for lack of a better term, cross our T's and dot our I's, so that we can ensure that we are in compliance with basically the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution. And, you know, to my colleagues that have helped in the committee to help to draft this piece of legislation before all of us. You know, and I think that I'd be remiss for it to go unnoticed and to be, not to be recognized. And with that, I want to be able to move to add co-sponsors to the legislation, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to be able to move that Senators Sean Gumatauto, Therese Talahi, Sabina Perez, Shelley Cowell, Jess Lujan, you as well, Mr. Speaker, Senator Chris Barnett, and Senator Sabrina Salas-Matanani be included added as co-sponsors to this legislation.
There's an amendment to add co-sponsors. Any objections to the amendment? No objections, so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Again, Mr. Speaker, this is a monumental piece of legislation. This is a legislation that's 50 years in the making, quite honestly, and a legislation that is needed to ensure that justice is equal all the way around. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to be able to move Bill 97-38 LS as amended by the committee and further amended to the floor to the third reading file.
There's a motion to move Bill number 97-38 LS as amended and amended on the floor to the third reading. Any objections? Hearing and seeing no objections.
Mr. Speaker, I also move that we take recess for dinner and be back at 8 p.m.
Okay, we'll be in recess till 8 p.m. and next on the session agenda will be Bill number 70-38 COR introduced by Senator Joe San Agustin. We're in recess.